Okay, when you think of a feud, what is the most famous feud you think of? Hatfield and McCoy's, if you're of a certain age. Okay, contrary to all the legends, they were an extremely industrious culture where they had their own court systems and everything, and obviously they did take things into their own hands. Well, there's another family that were there with the Hatfield and McCoys, and yes, it was the Vances, and I am a direct descendant from that group. And a Vance married a Hatfield, and knowing the Vances, they probably caused the feud, but my grandmother would never speak of it, so some of that history is lost. But thankfully, through the generations, the feuding didn't happen. We have a huge extended family on both sides. My cousins and I, except for through the teenage years, everybody has the dysfunctional stuff that happens. But my cousins and we're all still really close, and we're realizing that we're now becoming the older generation because most of our aunts and uncles have all passed away. The story doesn't really have an ending yet because my feud has been with my parents. As most of you know, I grew up in York. Well, I grew up on a farm outside of York. And then I moved to Atlanta for 20 years. And then I moved back, and it's just been about 5 years now to take care of my parents. And I asked them, please don't die in the winter, whatever you do. So what do? 3 years ago, do you remember what the winter was like? The worst ones in history? We couldn't even bury my mother. It was 2 feet of snow, and they couldn't. But I gave them 2 years together and kept them in their home and they died 10 weeks apart, which I knew they would because they were married over 60 years. And so I argue with them a lot lately. It's because after they passed away, then we had to sell the house. Well, and I ended up jobless and homeless. And now what do? I didn't want to come back to York to begin with. And so a friend of mine, her husband died not long after my mom, so I rented a room, and I'm still renting this room from her. And I finally got a job, and it's about a quarter of what I used to make. So lately I have been really yelling at my mom and dad. It's like, well, I couldn't let you die. I had to come back. And I started all this in what I call stinking thinking, and we all do it. It's just like, where do I belong? What am I supposed to do? Do I have any value? Does God even love me anymore? Is he mad at me? All these things. And it's like, to be honest, it's just been in the last week that I've kind of had to start yelling at myself and realize my feud is not with my parents. And some of it may be with God because we really have a lot of discussions sometimes. And because I know that your faith is extremely personal, but faith should never be private. You're supposed to share your faith so that you give others hope and encouragement. And I look around, even in this room, the people that I have got to know in York, the things that I've been able to experience since I've been back, relearning York all over again. I can't look at some of these people. The connections that I've made and the things that I do have to be thankful for and the things that I am grateful for. But it doesn't have an ending. I'm still trying to figure out where to live within this little budget that I have. But there are some other things in the works with even the city on affordable housing and some things that are just kind of really neat that once these pieces of the puzzle fall together. So we'll have to have some other kind of theme for when I figure out what the end of the story is.